10 statements that are intimacy killers. First and foremost, I want to make it clear that the ownership of wrongdoing or betrayal is 100% on the one who betrayed. This class is simply a general overlook at some of the statements all of us make that lead to disconnect in a relationship. Now, all couples fight, it's natural. Spending your life and raising a family with someone leads to a litany of offenses that annoy you to the core. I've been married almost 20 years, so I can vouch for that. Some chew loudly, some use dish towels to wipe up spilled sauce, some never replace the empty toilet paper roll, etc. So disagreements about everything from what to order to where to send the kids to school constantly need to be discussed. Some of these arguments will inevitably get heated, but even when a slight disagreement spirals into a full-blown brawl, there are certain things that we should avoid, certain statements. The first statement that I'll put out there that puts a wall up in between us and our spouse or significant other is, why can't you be more like? That's number one. Why can't you be more like? Comparing your spouse to someone else, be it a sibling, a parent, or even a neighbor, can be incredibly damaging. It raises the idea that who the person you are with is not good enough in the relationship. It can bring a cause to your partner to begin to withdraw from the relationship. In an argument, you do not want to say things that go to someone's very essence, because if someone attacks us to our very core, we retreat, and we're not going to share intimate information. Number two, I should have married, or I should have dated, or I should have went out with. Bringing up past lovers is an absolute no-no. Not only is it unnecessary and irrelevant, but it could also cause irreparable harm, as long after the argument is over, the other person may continue to wonder if their spouse regrets being with or marrying them. No one ever wants to be compared to someone else in any way. So that is a no-no to say, I should have been with, I should have dated, I should have married so-and-so. Number three, you've really let yourself go. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Would you ever want to hear that yourself? No. You never want to criticize your significant other for something that they can't help about themselves. Whether it's extra love handles or an overly large nose, things that are beyond their control should never be commented on during an argument. This extends to personal topics, obviously, so be sure to never bring up your partner's deeper issues during a heated conversation or argument. Now, that's not to say that if your partner is at an unhealthy weight, there's positive ways to get them to notice that, acknowledge that, be aware of that, and maybe together work on it. But just to make a deducing statement such as you let yourself go in a heated argument, again, goes to the core of somebody's worth and who they are, and it's very damaging and puts a wall up. Number four, why didn't you get that promotion? Insulting your spouse over a failure at work can be a low blow because it speaks to their performance as a whole person, not just as a husband, a wife, or a partner. Now, in the moment, saying things like, I would have thought you have made partner by now, or I would have thought you got that promotion, or I would have thought you got that raise that was up, it attacks a person's character. It attacks their values, and it goes to the heart of their essence as a human being. An argument over failure at work can be inverted, causing tremendous damage to our self-worth, confidence, and psyche. Absolutely, women do tie themselves to their work, I will say, but historically speaking, just from a male perspective, I think society has taught us that we tie our self-worth to our paycheck. It shouldn't, it's wrong, makes no sense, but that's the society in which we were raised. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, especially for men, when you attack anything to do with their job performance, their job title, it goes to the very heart of who a male is, because unfortunately we were raised in a society where your paycheck, your job title is directly attached to your self-worth. On the subject of work, I will lead into number five, which is, why do you work so much? This can be devastating to your significant other, as it points to a failure to maintain things at home, either by taking care of things around the house, or worse, not being present for your children. If your spouse or significant other's absence is an issue, there's a gentler way to bring it up, such as proposing a family activity, or even suggesting that one parent spend a special day with the kids to try to make up for lost time while the other one takes care of, household responsibilities. Another thing too is you could always tell your significant other or your spouse by first investing in them, something positive. Because side note, I always say relationships are like bank accounts. They're emotional bank accounts. You get out of them what you put into them. So if you say, I truly love your work ethic, or your integrity at work is stellar. I'm just wondering if there's any way we could work around maybe spending some more time together. Let's look at our calendars. So, you're still getting the same point across without injecting poison into somebody's psyche. Number 6, the number 6 detrimental statement to never say during a heated argument is, I haven't forgotten. Now, we all say this. I will stand in front of the line and raise both of my hands. This is something we all say, but this is a problematic phrase in arguments. When a disagreement over putting the cap back on a toothpaste suddenly erupts into a full-blown dissertation on everything the other person has done wrong since day one, that leads into some really, you're treading some dangerous waters there. When two spouses disagree, it's important to not only stay on topic, but also make sure the past remains well in the rearview mirror where it belongs. There's an old saying, the reason your windshield is 10 times larger than your rearview mirror is because what's ahead of you is far more important than what's behind you. So it's important to stay on topic. And it's never a good idea when you're arguing about, say, current bills, and you say, well, 5 years ago, you went on a shopping spree and blah, blah, blah. When that happens, the argument shifts into something that isn't constructive. So, there's an old saying, we forgive but never forget, and I understand all that. But bringing up I'll never forget, all it's doing is after you place trash out, it's bringing trash back into your home. So we've all said it. We're all guilty of it. We probably will say it again in the future, but just know it's a intimacy killing phrase. Number 7, I hate the way you dress. This one sounds relatively simple, but it could be wounding because it insults not only one's appearance, but also their sense of self. The way a person dresses, and I think somebody was just giving a class on this at PBT, but the way somebody dresses can be tied to their identity and how they see themselves and want to present themselves. So having that called out in a negative way can cause tremendous self-doubt. If your significant other, partner, or spouse, if their wardrobe choices are causing unease, maybe try saying something along the lines of, I saw this great pair of jeans and I know they'd look great on you. Because when you say only negative things, you're only making the person feel bad. You're not offering a solution. So again, I was just watching an episode of one of the shows that sadly, I don't want to put the word addiction out there, but I can say I'm almost addicted to this show called Married at First Sight. And this woman found out that the husband she was marrying was an 80s freak, and everything in his house was 80s. He talked in the style of 80s, and all of his clothes were 80s. And she was getting pretty fed up with what he was wearing. So the coaches were trying to tell her some ways to phrase to her husband, listen, I understand this is a part of your identity, but come on, we need to get with the times a little with our clothing. Number 8, putting down one's religious or political beliefs. Ooh, this could be a toughie. This could be a toughie. Couples will initially agree to go into a relationship or even raise their kids a certain way. But as times go on, one or the other may change as far as your religious or political stance. But these should not be hurled in the middle of an argument as a mean of one upping or even belittling the other person or their beliefs. If there is a serious concern, and when I mean serious, I mean like, it borderlines abuse, toxic, or dysfunction. If there's a serious concern with religious or political beliefs with your significant other, then come to the table. And when you come to the table more with a curiosity and questions, not finger pointing and guns blazing. All that's going to do is make the other person go into defense mode, which that's not going to be a productive conversation. Remember, we don't have to like, love, emulate, or believe in all that our significant other does. We really should respect their individual choices and learn to negotiate and compromise on how to incorporate them into our relationship. And I'll give you a quick, perfect example. Me and my spouse have been married for 20 years, and we are completely polar opposites on the political spectrum. I won't get into our beliefs, but I will say we are completely opposite on the political spectrum. I can't say that at times we haven't had disagreements and they've even gotten a little heated, but we do our best to come to the table with curiosity, with more of a questioning of why you believe the way you do. And oftentimes we just agree to disagree. Now, as far as religion, we have completely different denominations, but the same core beliefs. So just like every other aspect of relationships, no matter if they're intimate or non, it's all about compromise and negotiation. So it's finding that compromise and negotiation within, especially those heated discussions like money, politics, religion. Number 9, you're just like your mother or father. This statement tends to come up in cases of couples that don't get along with the mother or the father of their spouse or significant other. Drawing a negative correlation between your significant other and one of their parents is a surefire way to make an argument to another more unhealthy level, because Lord have mercy, that's a slippery slope. Again, something that the majority of us have done in the past. You are comparing someone to somebody that you really don't like or respect. So those are things that you really can't take back or say, oh, I didn't mean it, because you know that there's a shred of truth to them, and the person you said it to knows there's a shred of truth to them, because 9 times out of 10, somebody just doesn't say that once. It's said multiple times. And again, it's connected to a undesirable behavior from the person you're connecting it to, whether it be somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's brother, somebody's best friend, somebody's sister, yada, yada. And number 10, I wanted to save the best for last, or should I say the most detrimental, the most hurtful for last, is I never loved you. Of all the things that can be said during the heat of an argument, this is one that must be avoided at all costs, because it's next to impossible to come back from. Even if you don't mean it, saying it even once will plant a seed of doubt in the other person's mind that will never really go away. People that are told this start to think that, and sadly believe it. I mean, that is a seed in the brain that is easily watered by anything else. It's a seed that's easily watered, and we don't want that plant to really grow and even flourish, sadly. So really, it has a tendency to make others believe that their whole relationship was unreal or fake, and nobody wants to believe that. Now, you may be thinking, after hearing these 10, that truly there are worse things that have been said in the heat of the moment. And hell, I've said far worse. So certainly that is true. But the statements I mentioned are statements that are often said during heated disagreements that, unlike something sounding far more harsh, the majority don't understand the deep psychological consequences. So you could say something that sounds far more harsh, but doesn't carry the same weight or do the same amount of damage that something that sounds less harsh could do. All of these statements I've heard in coaching sessions. Some of these statements I've made myself. But again, these are statements that, although on the front might not sound completely damaging or detrimental or like intimacy killers, but they do have deep-seated roots that harm a psyche.